Hello everybody, welcome back to my television review series. Today we have something slightly different. We will be discussing Dave Chapelle, Sticks and Stones, and The Closer. My reaction and reviewing of material. So I figured my Netflix subscription's running out, no TV shows really jumped out at me. Briefly watched maybe half of an episode of Narcos Mexico. Again, I did the Narcos, the first one, did not do Narcos Saints or Narcos Mexico. So looking for something a little different. But, so Netflix is coming to a close, or like my subscription is going to renew, and I think the next ones I'm going to review are when I go over to Hulu for a month or two. They have Animal Kingdom and Mayans, which I watched both. Animal Kingdom, are both, again, reviewed those shows briefly in the Crime So Comparison episode in this series. But I really like those shows. Mine season 1 was very good. Season 2 was a little eh. Animal Kingdom I watched probably up through season 3, maybe halfway through season 4. Then I just ran out of the DVR, so I stopped watching it when I moved from Grafton Park to HQ Flats. We both really like those shows, good crime shows, crime drama. So I'm going to go back and watch that. So last thing I wanted to review here, scrolling through Netflix, couldn't really find something I was really going to want to watch. Probably going to review, there's another Ricky Gervais, no, that's not the right guy. Whoever the main character was in Law Abiding Citizen. There was another movie on Netflix I wanted to watch from there. But I thought it'd be interesting to react to stand-up. One, because in my language litigation and integration series, I think we talked about this a couple years ago. Dave Chapelle, maybe just 1 year ago, getting a lot of flack from the trans community. So I wanted to do a deep dive one, just watch him stand-up. Honestly, comedy. Well, I like comedy dramas, like written shows, stand-up comedy, again, obviously live. They're typically all right for me, never super great. I don't know how I'm going to do the grading on this one. Sounds like it's 12 o'clock on Wednesday here in Ohio. But, I don't know how to do the grading. Probably just give you my overall impressions first, and then, because I'm going to be going through the same type of thing, I'm going to be going through I wrote down pretty much all of the joke material. So there will be heavy use, or not heavy use, but those anytime there's Dave Chapelle comedy. So and I'm not going to censor my language to talk about the joke content. So this is for educational purposes. There will be hard ERs in here just because it's the content material that I'm reviewing. And so stand-up comedy in general, to me, the only stand-up comedy I think I've really seen is I went to TJ Miller with my brother, but. It's typically pretty good, but honestly, like being in the crowd of a rather intimate venue, and I'm not a stand-up comedian, but watching comedians like Andrew Schultz's podcast and stuff, and Joe Rogan and just other comedians talking about just like venue sizes, about after a certain like 1,000 people or something, the venue gets too big for it to be like an intimate type of conversation. So the setup is very key for here. Again, it looked like a rather intimate setting, again, maybe 1,000 people, a couple thousand people, where Dave Chapelle could really interact with each like individual guest kind of on a personal level. And so the thing I remembered about going to stand-up comedy in person, it was actually literally just like the expectation to laugh. Like everyone's on edge for like a really funny joke. And so as opposed in person versus on TV, I'd rather watch it on TV. For analyzing the material as opposed to just having an experience, having a night out, because a lot of the stand-up comedy kind of revolves around, again, comedy comes from what is comedy, where you have your material, strictly what are the jokes, you have your culture, where do the material, where they come from, the culture, the inefficiencies, what is comedy, irony, comedy is funny, comedy demonstrates inconsistency, you have delivery, where you have to have good material and you have to present it well. Offensiveness, I have in quotation, because if you click on a comedy special or you go to a comedy show, nothing's ever too soon, nothing's off limits, there's no lines anywhere, cross them all, fuck everything. And so because again, there was obviously some pushback, and I wanted to see if there was anything offensive. I watched Sticks and Stones, which was released in 2019, and The Closer, the whole thing, absolutely nothing struck me as transphobic or anti-trans. It's a comedy fucking show. So I don't get how anyone gets offended about any material, any subject matter. If it happened 5 seconds ago, you can clown me on it right now. Don't give a fuck. Couldn't care. Could not imagine a world in which words offend me. But venue, crowd size, and then awareness, quote-unquote, philosophy. And basically, you put something in the context of a joke. it really opens up a vector or a relationship or a conversation where you can make a comment about philosophy or like humanity or society or the way life runs. And typically, again, just for me personally, you're not gonna out philosophize me. You're not gonna hit me with some big truth that I'm not kind of aware of or directly aware of or directly proven stuff on. So comedy's kind of a specifically again like funny shows or funny movies can definitely hit for me. Stand-up is typically, I just honestly like more the raunchy shit. Anything that's more philosophical, if I can make, a comment about society or something, I'd rather just have some raunchy, edgy, racy type of shit. Not racist, but just like on the edge, just something that's gonna get people riled up. So, and overall, my impressions of Sticks and Stones and the Closers gave them both the same grade of a B. Certainly entertaining. Certainly Dave Chappelle's at the pinnacle of the comedy world. His delivery's fantastic. Material's all right. Some punchlines snuck up on me, not many. Did not strike me in any capacity whatsoever as bigoted towards the trans community. If you get offended by fucking anything, grow the fuck up. If you go to a comedy show and get offended by something, go fuck yourself. But so just overall impressions B. And if you have not watched the specials and would like to, shut off the video now. If you have watched it and want to hear what I think about the jokes. Again, nothing great. Certainly, you couldn't offend me personally, and I don't see in general how any of this content offended anybody whatsoever. But people just out there looking to get offended, to get riled up. So, B overall, entertaining, not super well done. Comedy with philosophy at the end can't really get me into the A range, the well done range. But as opposed to like I said, like the Never Have I Ever show from Netflix, that show keeps popping in my head. It was a show I really liked and enjoyed, and it was funny and fun. And so written comedy for like stand-up is different than like written comedy for a television show or fictional characterization. And so Sticks and Stones, 2019. First kind of joke, he makes an Anthony Bourdain hung himself in France. Just kind of commentating on it being suicide, again, just blatantly saying he kills himself. Again, clearly as an educator saying it's way better to say people killed themselves as opposed to he lost his battle to depression or something. So he makes some comments on that. He talks about cancel culture, again just being canceled. But I don't see how you're a famous celebrity or famous anybody being canceled. Being canceled is I do have 47 subscribers. So I went from 46 to 45 up to 47. So if I can break that 50 threshold, then we can start discussing cancel culture. But make some jokes about that. He makes jokes about victim blaming. He talks about Michael Jackson and pedophilia versus R. Kelly and pedophilia. I think he makes a joke of one of the two, like saying like he'd be proud to be molested by MJ. It's like, yeah, a lot of people get molested, but at least you got molested by Michael Jackson type of deal. And then he clowns R. Kelly, basically saying like, if someone accuses Michael Jackson of touching them, he might not believe them, but if it was R. Kelly, he'd probably believe that shit. So, makes a joke about that. Then when you talk about Kevin Hart, this Sticks and Stones was released in 2019. Makes Kevin Hart homophobic tweets and smashing a dollhouse and not being able to host the Oscars. So again, obviously dated 3-4 years. I have no idea the specific tweets they're referencing. Even offhand, I don't remember reporting on Kevin Hart homophobic tweets at all. But then smashing a dollhouse, I don't know. I think that was a joke part. But then like he's not being able to host the Oscars because of it, I guess so. So then he has a bit about saying faggot versus nigger as acceptable material, LGBT. Which actually I thought this was actually a rather funny joke. He's talking about writing, being a small-time writer or comedian. I don't know if he's doing stand-up yet, if this is a real story, if it's a bit, but he's talking about, being able to say nigger left, right, forward, backwards, up and down, and then when he says a faggot, he gets censored, he can't talk about it. And then he goes up to his chief editor, and he's like, Renee, I think Renee's in the bit, Renee, why can't I say faggot? And she's like, well, because you're, and he's like, well, Renee, I'm not a nigger either. So I thought that was actually fucking funny. But acceptable material for comedy is life. What's life? Acceptable comedic material. Clown this fucking shit. But old Australian maps just popped into my head. I saw this on Reddit a couple, weeks or a month back. But just go look at old Australian maps, the names on there. You'll get some real good descriptive names on those ones, which I thought was absolutely fucking hilarious. Assuming it wasn't a false post on Reddit, but I have seen that before, so I don't think it was. He talks about not caring, or he talks about abortion and right to choose to women and no to child support. So again, so this is like the philosophical thing. We're getting right to choose as, if the women can choose to have the baby, then I can choose to not pay child support. Those are kind of like the philosophical try to edges or inroads to comedy. They don't strike for me. I can see where the joke's going and see where the skit, where the bit is developing into. So, but the no child support I thought was kind of funny. Not caring about mass shootings was rather funny. Just talking about his own kid. He's like, little Johnny, if you're at school and your father's famous, someone's coming in and shooting, just duck and weave. Oh, I believe in you, but you're probably gonna get shot. So I thought that was decently funny. Overall, I gave them both B's, but I think Sticks and Stones was honestly a little funnier for me than the closer. He talks about, he says that he's against school shooting training. I forget exactly what the comedic angle was for that. He talks, I think he's from Ohio or lives in Ohio, so I always like the Ohio jokes. He talks about Ohio being poor white drug addicts and getting a $2 blowy or something. It's like your tits down to here, no ass. He makes some joke about the vagina being like long clits. Opening up some fucking strip club in like dusty bumfuck Ohio and having the strippers give $2 blowies or something. Always the Ohio jokes always make me laugh because this place is a shithole. That is fucking true. He talks about gun rights and bullet calibers. Not sure. Don't remember. I watched this one maybe a week ago, so I'm not really sure what the comedy was there. He says Juicy Smollett. He butchers the pronunciation obviously on purpose. And I think whenever he pronounces that name, Jesse Smollett, I forget exactly what he calls him, like Juicy Smollett or something. But he has some funny bits about that. But being a famous French actor and Kanye being MAGA. We'll talk about Kanye in the recent events in the Language series. But again, I don't remember the exact joke for Kanye either. And then that one, basically that set ends up with more jokes of being broke and poor. So that's really the end of David Chapelle Sticks and Stones. So I'm gonna give that a B, slightly more higher than the closer, but still both kept at a B. So the closer, we joke about getting COVID and the JJ vaccine. He says he gets vaccinated, but he got like the cheapest one or like the most rundown one or whatever. He has a bit about UFOs from Earth, and then he calls them space Jews, which again, I'm not really, obviously a joke against Jews, but I'm not really against the space Jews, like the culturalistic slang or degradation to Jews would be like, the hats being kind of rich, the stuff with Kanye about like controlling the media. But again, I'll cover that on a different thing. But really just being like rich, I think that's like the being rich, but maybe being stingy. It's kind of like the historical, obviously historically with being the brunt head of Hitler. But again, I'll talk about that more because it's more of a history lesson than really anything. He calls them space Jews, but he talks about UFOs being from Earth. Yeah, that is pretty historically accurate. And again, they come from everywhere. And yeah, but there was at least two, right, Sasha Mama? Right, guys? Right? Uh-oh. NASA announces 16 members with no classified information for another smoke and mirrors show. Cool beans. Forget the aliens, Joe. You guys steal all of my property every day. And that's a drop-down menu, drop-down menu, drop-down menu. I don't give a fuck. I care more about the flies that come into my house. He has a bit that was decently funny, more so on the delivery. Again, the development of the material wasn't super profound to me. He has a joke called Clifford, the Big Black Nigger. Basically, obviously, Clifford, the big red dog, basically a black dude that has a white name and speaks like a white dude. So when the police show up or whatever, they're like, "Who's the black guy?" And it's Clifford, the big black nigger. And so he builds on that throughout the piece, where he's always referencing Clifford throughout the piece, which is decently funny. He talks about DaBaby killing a dude in Walmart versus offending LGBT people. He's like, what's worse, making jokes about LGBT or DaBaby who literally killed a dude in Walmart? And again, see, like even that kind of joke developments, like you should be able to defend yourself. That shouldn't be like scary. And obviously a comedy bit about, this versus that. who was scared of LGBT comments or dude shooting people in Walmart. But the dude was defending himself, the dude was coming at himself, so it's like, that joke didn't develop. It was kind of funny, but just the development wasn't strong. He talks about glory holes, just like old gay people that he respects more than the current ones. So they would just put the wiener in a hole and see what happens. Hope for the best. Makes fun of dykes, butch lesbians, pronouns. He had a line that was funny. Is it one days or many days? I forget what the introduction for that was, but that was a funny one. I've LOL by that. He has Ohio being a good place for saggy tits strip club, so that was, I kind of mixed that up with the sticks and stones bit. He talks about being a feminist. You get another like a philosophical bit saying, I never knew feminist just means supporting the rights of women, so therefore I'm a feminist. And then the crowd cheers. So like some philosophical relief from good comedy type of deal. It's just like, oh, okay. The Me Too movement being silly, which again, I've referenced that, but again, just the linguistical presentation. I think it's talking about like the Harvey Weinstein recently, which I think there's a movie coming about that now, or soon. I saw trailers for that, but I think the Me Too was with the Harvey Weinstein and just sexual assault abuse victims. And so I really didn't even I knew the tag phrase, I really know who we're talking about. He says being silly. I'm not sure exactly what the comedy was there. And then we talk about what is a woman. Guys, I figured it out. I figured it out linguistically. It's a female. Women are females. A woman is a female. I proved it. I got it. Again, proof is really hard. When you don't do word salad, you just pick the other word that's more general and more specific in the word family. It means the same thing. He talks about Juneteenth, which is again the black holiday or slave holiday. Again, there's brown and pink. I don't know who black and whites are. So when they say a person of color, black, go to art classes, black a color. No, it's a shade. Brown and pink. Those are the range of skin tones for the human species. But he makes jokes about Juneteenth, a freed slave becoming a slave owner, which is again historically accurate and actually kind of enlightening to again just the human condition. Right? It's not black versus white. It's not this versus that. And again, a lot of again race jokes again just about black people versus white people versus LGBT. Decent comedy. The actual race stuff makes decent comedy. The LGBT, as long as it's not again trying to elicit some biological inconsistency. Dave Chapelle, literally meaning he's making a joke, or I'm supposed to have some philosophical revelation about something he's just wrong about biologically. But again, nothing about this struck me as anti-LGBT. He's a comedian, for fuck's sake. But a freed slave becoming a slave owner, that bit was rather funny. He says Chili's isn't a nice restaurant. Okay, that is offensive. That is fucking offensive, Dave Chapelle. I am from Ohio. I'm from the suburbs of Columbus. So not bumfuck nowhere, but a good chunk of my family's from the Ohio Valley. Yeehaw. The hollers and hills, yins and y'alls. Chili's is that's a huge step up from Applebee's. Don't fucking, Dave Chapelle, we got serious fucking beef, bro. If you coming strong at fucking Chili's, bro. So that was offensive. He should be canceled for that. Being attracted to a trans picture, trans versus black struggle. Talks about, again, some chick coming up to him maybe at the Chili's. And I think that might even be a part of the bit. But comes up to him and is like, what do you think about my beautiful daughter? And he's like, oh, she's a very beautiful woman. She's like, oh, well, she's trans. And so Dave Chappelle's like, this bitch does know who I am. But again, 2019 versus 2021, and I watched both of them. None of the material struck me as like actively hateful, right? Hate speech is against a group of people blindly, and I did not see anything, and I didn't see anything like kind of edgy or kind of bigotry, just intolerant of anything. He's just a comedian. But so he has that. Then he talks about the rest of the place is really just again a mix between referring to Clifford and just more trans jokes and black and white kind of race jokes. But we had J.K. Rowling being canceled for being anti-trans, quote-unquote, and quote-unquote transphobic. I have not reviewed her comments specifically. But again, any bigotry is just, again, people not exposing themselves to life, right? Like, again, people who didn't like black people in the civil rights movement, and then they exist around black people for a couple years, and they're exactly the same fucking type of people. They don't do school shootings as much, except for that dude in St. Louis the other day, so. But again, we're all the human species, and we're all individuals. We have to learn at an individual level. So any bigotry is just insecurity projected out into the world. Whatever the domain of intolerance is. And so, I don't have anything didn't specifically about anything J.K. Rowling's, but I've definitely seen that on Reddit. Again, the woke left coming back, the woke culture coming after. I just have not looked in specifically. And she recently looks at her royalty checks and doesn't care. He says gender is a fact, which again, like I see, that's like, again, a theorem. Like I list theorems all day. Gender is a fact, correct. You can have a penis and a vagina, or a penis or a vagina, and then you can modify those to fit your hormone levels and your psychological awareness of yourself. Do the organs work? Do they not? He makes fun of trans pussy, which is valid material. Again, as a biologist, I just do the reconstructed or improvised reproductive systems, do they work? Like, just genuine question. I don't think so. But again, if you go through surgery, that's what again I would call you a shark or a deer or whatever the fuck. But if you get offended, I don't get people who get fucking offended by anything. But he makes fun of trans pussy, which was kind of funny. Daphne bombing an opening show and having hardwood floors and then killing herself. It's kind of like the last joke. He talks about making a friend who was a comedian and happened to be trans. And again, I believe it was just a dude. Again, I would just call it cross-dresser. Like if you have a functional penis and you dress up as a girl like that Dylan whoever that was just interviewed at the White House. Just again, when I see man or woman, I just think what is in their pants. Like actually, not trying to be offensive. I'm just trying to understand like who you are, what you got going on in there. I would not again have no problem using pronouns. I have no desire. I don't give a fuck to be politically correct about pronouns or fucking anything else for that matter. But it's just genuine. It's like just trying to figure out. So it seemed like it was like a Daphne was a man that was transitioning into a woman. That's what I got out of that. But apparently she comes up for the opening show and she absolutely bombs the entire thing. And then Dave goes up there to do his bit or his set, and someone heckles Daphne while he's giving Dave is giving his show, and the heckler heckles Daphne, and he says, "Does the carpet match the drapes?" And then she says, "Honey, I have hardwood floors." Isn't like, see, it's like that's does the carpet match the drapes? Is your pubic hair the same as your head hair? And so it's like whether you're male or female, you got pubic hair. It's not like a well-developed response. Like, but then Dave Chappelle says like the crowd erupts. It's just like, and that's what I mean by like humor that is not logically consistent. Like that's what pops out to me. It's like having hardwood floors would mean like, I'm assuming having wood floors, getting a woody boner. But it's like the first thing that pops out to me is both male and female have pubic hair. So, but then she says she got heckled online and then jumped off a building. So, and that was really the end of the set. Again, both are about an hour long. Again, trans stuff, suicide, cancel culture, all of the things of culture that generates the material. Obviously, I think the delivery in his career has spoken for himself, but the delivery of Dave Chappelle is absolutely top notch. The material is always limited by the culture. For me personally, anytime I try to get like to a philosophical point through humor, I can see it coming, and it's not super philosophical. Bunch of apes on a rock. So I like the more offensive content, things that are a lot edgy, racy, even if they're raunchy, just whatever the fuck. Anything that's philosophical just doesn't hit for me. So overall, certainly liked it. Again, stand-up comedy in general is not something I typically like, just because I happen to solve science faster than I breathe. So punchlines kind of jump out pretty obviously. But again, as opposed to comedy in a written show. So certainly liked it, recommend it. I see absolutely nothing wrong with any of the fucking material, and you can't see anything about any material that would ever be off limits for comedy or jokes. Because comedy is pointing out inefficiency. It's demonstrating irony of the culture, of the behavior of our species. So wreck that shit, Dave. And thank you for watching my review. And again, my next reviews in this series will be on I'll probably do Mayan Season 3 next. So thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.